Well, this is very exciting. We've met the Toronto David, and now we are about to meet David, who actually lives in California but is calling us from his other home in Hawaii. So we are thrilled and honored to have author, chef, and raw food guru David Wolfe join us today in the studio. Wolfe is the author of Superfoods, the food and medicine of the future. And along with the Sun Food Diet Success System, Eating for Beauty, Naked Chocolate, and Amazing Grace, what fabulous titles, David Wolfe has been called a nutritionist. His knowledge in the field of raw foods, superfoods, herbs, and chocolate is unsurpassed. He joins us live from his home in Hawaii. David, aloha, welcome.
Aloha. Spent the afternoon planning superfoods over here.
Wow. Well, that sounds wonderful. Is the weather absolutely beautiful?
Brilliantly sunny, not a cloud in the sky. It's baking down on us. It's beautiful.
Oh,
awesome.
well, just visualize with you. Thank you so much for being part of our program tonight. We really are deeply honored. I know that you are the superfood guru, among many other things. Superfoods. You say there are three kinds of special foods that we are rediscovering in our present-day culture: living raw foods, super herbs, and superfoods. Can you explain?
Okay, well, living foods is the product of an enormous amount of research over the last 150 years. It's original food the way nature presents it, and the raw food diet and raw food interest has gone just through the roof because it's original, it's natural, it's authentic, it's pure. Superfoods are basically raw foods, but they're the most powerful foods that have been identified by the great civilizations of the past. For example, aloe vera came from the Egyptians. Goji berry comes from the Chinese and the Chinese medical system. Here in Hawaii, noni was brought by the Polynesians. That was their great superfood. Coconut was another one as well. And it just goes down the list like that. So that's the superfoods. And then the super herbs are the greatest herbs in the world. There's anywhere from 250,000 to 400,000 herbs that are eaten by humanity on the planet. Nobody agrees on the number, but it's somewhere around there. About 50 of them only are categorized as super herbs, which means they have a very peculiar effect on human metabolism. For example, they can bring your immune system up or down, depending on if you need that. They can adapt and help you adapt to your environment, to your stress levels, to your physical, athletic feats, whatever it is that you need in your life. These adaptogens have that property of helping out about 10%, and those are super herbs.
That's wonderful. Some of the hottest ones you say right now are the goji berries, raw chocolate, coconut, chlorella, medicinal mushrooms, reishi mushrooms. Can you take us through some of those, starting with the goji berries, and tell us what they are? Yes.
Goji berry was identified by the Chinese, and actually the Latin genus, or the name in Latin of that plant, is called Lyceum, which means school of learning, because it's the one that teaches you about all the other Chinese herbs according to the Taoist lore on the subject. And it definitely will get you interested in herbs if you start eating goji berries. There's a lot going on. The goji berries are a complete protein source. They contain compounds called sesquiterpenes that help us secrete human growth hormone, making us younger. It's the only food known that helps us secrete human growth hormone. Goji berries are also delicious, and they contain an amazing amount of the carotene called zeaxanthin. They also contain beta-carotene, but zeaxanthin is specific for our eyes.
Wow. I love the passion, by the way. I have to just say this because I'm noticing it so much, the passion when you talk about superfoods and when you talk in general, and it's so lovely to hear that in your voice. The raw chocolate is everybody loves chocolate, but when you take away all the processing and all of the additives, and you just have that pure, raw, I've heard it cacao and cacao. Tell us what can chocolate do for you?
Chocolate is the number one longevity food in the world. That's the untold truth. That's the research. That's what we found out over the last 20 years. It's also the number one antioxidant food in the world, which means that if you eat more chocolate, you're going to live longer, and you cut your risk of a heart attack in proportion to how much chocolate you eat. It has the most profound effect on heart disease of any single food in the world, period. Nothing even close. That's according to the Dutch latest study that came out of their research on 465 men who were studied from age 65, 70, 75, and 80. And they found out that the chocolate eaters lived the longest and were still alive at the age of 80, whereas everybody else had died. And that led to a deeper discovery. Chocolate is also an amazing source of minerals, very important minerals depleted by stress: magnesium, zinc, copper, phosphorus, manganese, iron. It's the highest of any plant in iron. And chromium for blood sugar. It's one of the highest chromium content foods in the world.
Who would have ever known that chocolate, you always feel guilty when you eat chocolate. Now, guys, you can eat chocolate and feel so good about it. I love that. Now, the miracle food, the miracle food that we're hearing about, David, more and more, I can't get over how much I'm hearing about this food, is the coconut. It's just this miracle food for, it's a memory booster. It does things for your immune system. Can you tell us a little bit about coconut?
The big news recently on coconut oil is that it fights Alzheimer's. It's one of the best things ever discovered against Alzheimer's. It's a saturated fat, and we need saturated fat, but we don't want the saturated fat that comes from cow today in the way that we could have had it before, because just the food supply has too much contaminants in it. So we've got to now shift and get our saturated fat from another source that's purer and cleaner, and coconut oil fits that. The thing that it also has, it's not just normal saturated fat like stearic acid found in beef. It actually contains what's called medium-chain triglycerides, which lowers cholesterol or can moderate cholesterol. Actually has a very powerful antimicrobial, antiviral, and antifungal effect. So it has an immunological effect, which is great.
We just saw a shot of it. It almost looks like shortening, or some people would say lard. It doesn't look like typical oil. What do you do with it exactly?
Well, you have what this is the lore about it. You have one in your kitchen, so you can throw it into smoothies. You can eat it straight. It's just kind of a cool little snack food. You can use it on your skin. It's great in the bathroom. You get out of the shower, dry off, just do a whole thing on your skin. I just had that this morning. But you can also use it in another room in your house, the bedroom. And I'm just going to leave that to everybody's imagination.
Wow. Okay. Excuse me while I blush here in Toronto. So moving on to chlorella, and that one I wasn't familiar with at all. What is chlorella? What does it do for you?
Chlorella is a microalgae, and it's one of the most important discoveries in the last 100 years in terms of a natural food. It's naturally present in water and streams, and we have had it before throughout all our history on this earth. But it actually is the highest chlorophyll content food in the world. It's 10% chlorophyll. Let me give you an example of what that compares to. Wheatgrass, the best wheatgrass in the world, is 0.25% chlorophyll. So chlorella is 40 times greater in chlorophyll. That means it has a detoxification effect, a blood purification effect, and it lowers the heavy metals in the brain, so it can actually have a neurologically protective effect.
Wow, that's incredible. David, how come foods go in trends? A couple of years ago, it was the pomegranate, then blueberries. Now it's this coconut oil. What do you attribute to that? That every couple of years there's this new superfood, if you will.
Well, I like the overall trend, which is people are actually interested in pomegranates and blueberries and coconut oil, that's the best news ever. But what happens is it's like sensationalism about these things, which is fine, because actually a lot of times it adds up and it does stack up. Like coconut oil's research on Alzheimer's is amazing, and it does stack up. The research is pointing that it's protective against Alzheimer's. So what I do is, after all these years of doing all this stuff, I just end up throwing all of it into a big smoothie, just into a big drink, blend it up, and that way you get all of it. That's the only way I've been able to deal with all this.
I'm going to call that the David Wolfe smoothie, and I'm going to try that. That's amazing. David, what is your bliss, and how is bliss connected to these superfoods?
Well, two things. I love sharing information about superfoods. That's my bliss. Public speaking about superfoods and raw foods and herbs is absolute ecstasy to me. I absolutely love it, and sharing it is just a joy. My second bliss is planting superfood trees like durian and cacao and mangosteen, which is what I've been doing all morning here on our farm, and that's my second tier of bliss.
David, we have to say aloha, but this has been a highlight for all of us here. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. It's Superfoods, the Food and Medicine of the Future. Check it out. It's a beautiful book as well. Thank you so much, David, for calling us.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks to you, and I wish everybody the best day ever.
Good health. All the best to you.